Hey guys, this is Chuck with 83MetalCraft, and today we're going to be teaching you how to build a horizontal rail with a wood top. What we're going to be using today for materials to get this job started is we're going to use some 2-inch square tube for the posts. We're going to use 2-inch by 3/8 inch flat bar for the top mounting bar for the wood, and we're going to be using 1/2 by 1.5 inch rectangle tube for the horizontal runners. Alright, let's get started.
Alright, so right here we're going to be cutting some material. Luckily I had some leftover, 2-inch square tube and flat bar and some of the 1/2 by 1.5 inch rectangle tube from other projects. So we're basically just trimming them down to length on our LS 1600 to what we're going to need. I'll tell you, this saw definitely comes in handy. I remember when we first started, I was cutting with a cutting wheel and a chop saw, and that took a while. That made projects run a long time. But like anything else, you start with what you have, and then of course you just build from there. And for us, we started on a very limited budget. And actually, when we started, it was just me for the first 2 years. I basically started my company with $500, and so I would do a job at a time and buy a tool at a time. And so, it took me about 2 years to gain all the extra equipment I needed. And so I've been pretty lucky and pretty thankful. But I'll tell you, this LS saw has definitely sped up our program a lot, and it just makes cutting things so much easier. Doesn't take up a whole lot of space. We can move it around anywhere in the shop, get it out of the way if we need to get it out of the way for anything. So right here we're cutting 1/2 by 1.5 inch. This is what we'll be using for our runners. I'd like to thank Western Steel in Colorado Springs for being our distributor. They give us a pretty good deal on steel, and they never seem to run out. And they always are able to come through when we need material, and they're about the only distributor that never seems to run out of material when I need it. Doesn't matter if I'm in there 3 or 4 days a week. Alright, and so right here we're on our rail table, and he's checking his 0 point, making sure everything's square, and this makes it really speedy and nice for building square panel. We're able to just basically clamp to a right angle and throw everything together pretty quickly. And then right there he gets the 40 MP 140, and he starts tacking all of our parts together. And then right here is just another view so that you're able to kind of see what we're doing. Now right here, what JJ's doing is he's checking his measurements on the inside of the post, and he's trying to get them equal so he can clamp them down to the table, because we're fixing to start stuffing our horizontal runners. And so you never want to start out by having something even a 1/16 or an 1/8 inch off, because then your panel won't be square. So he was getting that going, and now as you can see he's putting some height spacers in there, basically to elevate the runners to the correct height, split the distance to make sure everything's centered. And so he's putting his first one in there, and clamps on the table, everything's locked down, nothing's moving. We had already predetermined our spacing off camera, based on the 4-inch code requirement, for our area, which I'm assuming most areas are going to be like that as well, and they have some sort of a spacing requirement. But our area is no more than 4 inches of space for straight rail panels, whether that's horizontal or vertical. And then on stair panels we can be up to 4 3/8 inches on our spacing. Still, though, as long as our bottom runners aren't creating bigger than a 6-inch sphere underneath on open-ended stairs and whatnot. So I think we came out on this one somewhere around 3 and 7/16 spacing. With our designs, we kind of... Alright, so right here, JJ's basically just, he's got all the 1/2 by 1.5 inch tacked in, and now he's beginning to weld these out. Usually on the first side of the panel, we try and weld 3 sides out, your sides and your top. That way when you do, clean this side and then flip it over, 75% of your project is done. That way you just got a single flat weld on the other side to get. Makes it real easy to try to do most of the work on the first side. That way the back side just goes so much quicker. I think the other thing that's important to remember is, stagger some of your heat if you can. As you see, it kind of jumps around a little bit, and that really helps to transfer heat throughout the whole project to dissipate the potential of any heat warpage in the rail. And as you can see right here, he's just unclamping and he's getting ready to flip his rail over and do the other side. He tends to have a little bit of a different method than me, but at the end of the day, everything is the same. Normally, I would have put my base plates on before flipping. That way that part was already done, but you can get to the same location, same point, and, taking 2 different roads. So this is, the opportunity to see how multiple people can do it. As it goes, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Now right here you can see JJ over at the table, and he's actually marking center on all of his base plates, and so that's what he's doing now. We just use a normal speed square. Calculate your thickness by what you've got on the width and divide the 2 on the base plate to give you a good center. In this case, the base plate closest to us, we did inset flush because we're building the rail for an inside stoop, and we want to be as tight as we can per request of the customer. And so we ran this one flush. That way we can maximize our rail length, more for safety concerns. And with the location of where this client lives, is a pretty wet and slick and snowy area, 6 months out of the year. So it gives them something to hold on to. Here you can see he's taking a flap wheel and he's just grinding all the welds down and making everything look good, nice and smooth. And this is a major part of any rail build and getting it ready for powder coat. This is just as important as making a good weld and making a design look modern and spectacular. And right here he's drilling a couple holes out, because this is how we're going to end up mounting the wood. We don't use any clips or anything like that. We just simply come in and, depending on the length of the rail, we'll drill multiple holes so that way we can get some good wood screws up underneath into the wood, and it holds everything and makes everything really secure. Almost done. That last one always seems to take a while. Now right here he's putting the screws in. We've just used a couple of regular clamps and voila, you've got a wood mount. What we're trying to do right here is just demonstrate a finished product. Once again, finished product.
Alright guys, so that was today's build. As you can see, it was fairly straightforward, but it's got a really good modern look. It's good for renovations, new builds, something simple like that. I've worked with a lot of clients that, they want to spend big money in their kitchen and doing additions and things like that. And I've talked them into, letting me do some rail, because I think rail is just as important as, let's say, a kitchen remodel. It's a huge focal point in homes, whether it's a new build or renovations, decks, landscaping, everything. And they've been blown away by just how much, something as simple as that modern look can open everything up, and they don't have to, sink as much money in, in another area. If you guys have any questions or comments, please, type them below, and I will leave all the links for the equipment we used today. We used an LS saw for all of our saw cutting, and we used the Forney MP40 to get this all welded out. Other than that, we're going to be having another video coming out soon of some pipe rail install out in the field and a couple other rail projects, different styles. If you guys like what you see, please hit that subscribe button, and we will see you next time.